Good morning. Happy Friday. So, last day on rapport. At the beginning of our conversation on rapport, I said rapport is power. And what did I mean by that? Well, a couple of things. Number one, when you're in rapport with somebody else, then you not only know how they feel, but obviously then you can communicate with them in a way that they can actually hear you. One of the things about the visual, auditory, kinesthetic is when we're stressed, we go to our home and that's all that we can see. So if a visual person is stressed, all they're doing is operating visually. So if you're talking to them, you're not getting anywhere. And a lot of times what happens is a visual person will be stressed and they'll be communicating with an audio person who's also stressed. And the visual person is going, here, look at this. You need to look at this. Look at this. And the audio person is going, you're not listening to me. And what's really fun is when these two people are married, which, as I said, happens all the time. Because it's not like you sit down and you go, hey, are you visual? Are you auditory? What are your values? What are your beliefs? You do that later in life. I did that in my second marriage, much more helpful, but certainly didn't do it in the first one. So, number one, you're able to communicate with somebody in a way that they understand you, so that when what you're trying to get across, you can actually get across. This is really big for millennials who have only communicated using a screen and therefore are much more hindered in terms of their ability to communicate. Now, they can do it a lot better than they think. They're just not used to it. You know, my generation, we always interacted face to face. That's all we did. So it comes easy to us. They've only interacted through these devices, which, as we know, is only 7% of the way humans communicate. So it's much more difficult. And when we do breakout rooms and Tony Robbins events, anybody under 35, all I hear from them is, I have social anxiety. I want to be better at talking to people. I have anxiety about public speaking. Now, everybody's always had anxiety about public speaking. That's always been one of the number one fears amongst the planet. But obviously the millennial generation, it's much more of an issue. And really, they'll do it naturally because we know how to do it as humans. They're just not used to it. But the more you can learn these different techniques and understand how people communicate, the easier that's all going to flow. So number one, you can communicate in a way that people will actually understand you. But number two, if two people are in rapport, the person with the most certainty will influence the conversation. Let me say that again. If two people are in rapport, the person with the most certainty will influence the conversation. They will dominate, if you want to say, but in a good way, not in a bad way. So where does certainty come from? Certainty comes from physiology. Certainty comes from right here. It comes from your sternum, your chest being centered. That's when you are certain. And when your physiology is in the right place, then your certainty is in the right place. So if you want to really influence somebody, your kid, you're in a business negotiation, an employer or an employee, somebody in that's, or you're just trying to get a room at a hotel after a plane has been canceled, whatever. When you're in that situation, if you develop rapport, then you're going to be able to influence, as long as you come from that place of certainty and you're influencing with integrity. And also remember that once you're in rapport, it tends to be much easier to influence with humor or with something positive than with something negative. And when you're in rapport, you'll understand how to do that. Who's the greatest at this? Kids. Kids are the greatest at this. Kids will come in and get in rapport with you immediately, right when you come home from work, and then they will use humor and their bodies in order to influence you to try to get you to do what they want you to do. Let's go outside and play. Let's go play a game. Let's do this. Let's do this. Oh, I got things I gotta do. I gotta work. I gotta make dinner. I gotta do all this stuff. Oh, come on. And they throw themselves all over the place and they use humor. Now, if they don't get what they want initially with humor, then they might go negative and they might throw a fit or they might do something like that. But kids, their tendency is to use humor and fun and playfulness first. And if you watch a kid do this, they naturally do it. And then we train it out of them. We send them to school and we tell them, sit down and shut up. Don't interact with humans. That's what you get trained in at school. Sit in your chair and be quiet, because that's what'll work when you get out in the real world in terms of being successful in anything, is sitting there and being quiet. That's what'll do it. So, but naturally, instinctively, they know how to get what they want, and they get in rapport to you, and they use their physiology and they use their humor to try to influence you to come and do whatever it is that they want to do. So when you want to see a great example of that, watch a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old try to get what they want and emulate that. Not if they go negative, that doesn't, because that rarely works. But when they're really being funny and being positive, watch how they do it, because they do it great. They get in rapport and then they make you laugh. And almost always they're able to get what they want. Have a great day, everybody. Long weekend. Have a great long weekend. I appreciate you guys all watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.